I don't know. Delete that part. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Just edit that part out.
Okay. Hey, it's Sue.
And Megan,
the Spine Breakers.
And today we are going to do kind of a combined, if you got them, read them discussion.
Yeah.
We're going to combine multiple challenges.
We're trying to catch up on these videos we were doing for each challenge. It's apparent now that we're not going to get them all done by the end of the year because we got behind.
Correct.
On our own challenge. So we're doing 3-in-1 this time. So we're going to
boom, boom.
We're going to be discussing what we read for a book you've had so long you don't remember what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
A book by one of your favorite authors.
Yes.
And a book by an author you've never read before.
Yes, those are the 3 challenges we will be discussing. And while we do that, we are going to be drinking this Brownie Points brown ale with vanilla.
Yes, and it has a cute little gnome on the front.
So cute.
From Maplewood Brewing.
In Chicago.
Chicago,
Illinois. Probably the rudest human being I've ever interacted with was when I was in Chicago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, granted, I think in 9th grade, so it was like, I was an obnoxious teenager. It was super windy when we were there because it's right on Lake Michigan.
It's Chicago.
And yeah.
It's a windy city.
And so I made that comment in a shop, and the lady working was like, actually, that is not why we call it the Windy City. And I was like, okay. And she's like, it's because of politicians or something. And I was like,
because they're full of wind?
Yeah.
They're wind bags?
Something. I don't remember exactly what her rationale was, but I was like, whatever, bro, it's windy. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, it was a rude interaction. I didn't like it. I still remember it.
What a bitch.
She was a bitch. So yeah, probably I'm the only person who remembers that, but
sticks in your brain.
Sticks in your brain. I can't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday, but I can remember that.
Yeah. So be nice to people.
So be nice. Don't be a dick. I was very mortified. Cheers.
Ooh,
that tastes good.
I like that.
I feel like it smells funky.
It does. I mean, it smells like a brown ale to me. Kind of nutty.
Yeah.
And it tastes kind of nutty, but sweet. Like a sweet vanilla, but not too sweet.
Not too sweet, no. It's nice. I like that.
Yeah, I like it too.
That's tasty.
Yum. Okay, so what did you read for a book you had so long you could not remember what it was about?
I read People of the Book by Geraldine Brooks. I bought this at a library sale, honestly, because the cover is like really beautiful. And I had it, and I pressed a leaf in there.
Oh.
Look at me go. And I had it for a while. And did not have any clue what it was about anymore. But I wanted to read it because I had read A Year of Wonder by Geraldine Brooks, which was really good. And so I thought this would probably be as well. This is another historical fiction novel. I think that's maybe her thing, because that's what A Year of Wonder was.
Yeah.
But this is about this book. I think it's the Apocrypha. I'm trying to verify. But it's about this very old book. Yeah, it's a illustrated Hebrew manuscript, and it was created in 15th century Spain, but it survived all the way up until modern times. And so this book is kind of the story of how it managed to survive some really shitty circumstances and situations, and also about the lives of the people whose hands it kind of came into.
That sounds really interesting.
It was super interesting. I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I dug it. I kind of like historical fiction anyway, depending on the time period.
Yeah.
But I really dug it. I'll probably read more Geraldine Brooks. So he's good.
Nice.
It's good.
All right, so I read Picnic on Paradise by Joanna Russ for this challenge, and I actually just recently finished it because I read it for our readathon. But this is a classic feminist sci-fi novel, and it's about a woman who is she's a hardened soldier, kind of, and her name is Alex. And she is sent to this planet called Paradise, which is actually a rather harrowing planet. And she's meant to lead this group of people to safety. And my biggest gripe with the book is probably that, like, I just felt like I had no idea why she was there and why she was leading them to safety and what.
Like, yeah, but
like
why,
there was
though?
some sort of war happening, is what I got, but I didn't really. You're just kind of like thrust in there, not given a whole lot of context. I just, plot-wise, really didn't know what was going on. But I did really like Alex as a character. She definitely is like the polar opposite of how women were generally portrayed in science fiction. I think at the time, this was published in 1968, I believe. Yes.
Okay.
So she's like very tough and angry and, you know, don't need no man.
Need me no man. Yeah, that is very like.
Although she does have like a romantic relationship in the book, but
Well.
I enjoyed it, but I certainly wasn't like blown away by it. I like appreciate it as a classic, you know, feminist sci-fi novel, but I didn't love it.
That's totally fair.
So I gave it 3 stars.
I felt like that about the Joanna Russ book that I read, because I felt like I was supposed to like it because it was like classic feminist sci-fi,
Yeah.
and I just didn't love it.
Yeah. I think vintage sci-fi can sometimes just be a little bit, like, I've noticed this about a few vintage books I read where they're just kind of like throw you into this situation
like,
and you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, that was true of the other book of hers that I read as well.
Yeah.
So then the next challenge that we are going to talk about is read a book by one of your favorite authors. So what did you read for that?
I read Bloodchild and Other Stories by Queen Octavia E. Butler.
The queen herself.
And this is a collection of short stories. It also includes 2 essays. Loved it. Like,
It's great. It's amazing.
it's Queen Octavia.
Yeah.
I think this would be like a good, if you're like, for whatever reason, unsure of if you will enjoy Octavia Butler, I feel like this would be a good place to start to just kind of like,
Basically, if
Get a
you've heard
feel.
of Fledgling and you're apprehensive,
yeah.
start
But
here.
I mean, her books get weird.
Her books
You
get
know,
weird.
her books can get weird.
So this is a good primer. I think you're right.
This is a good place to start. And if you're like too weirded out by these stories, I don't think, with the exception of possibly Kindred,
Yeah.
I don't know that you would dig her other works
Yes.
too much. But yeah, I enjoyed all the stories. I really liked the first essay, which was called Positive Obsession, where she kind of talks about how she thinks writing is less about talent and more about persistence. I just thought there was a lot of great words of wisdom in that one. My favorite story was probably Bloodchild, but I also really liked Speech Sounds and The Evening and the Morning and the Night. Those were probably my 3 favorite stories. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, I think.
It's a
there
strong
were some
collection.
stories I wasn't
In love with.
as into, but it's a really good collection.
It's a strong collection, and I feel like I just feel like Octavia Butler was so like humble, and I think in her essays about writing you can kind of see that in her, like that humility in her, but she also was just like not afraid to say like, I want this, like I'm gonna write books that make people feel. I want to write, and like she was very clear about her intentions, but also just so humble. But like, if you,
because she does make it clear that like she doesn't think she's really like special, you know, necessarily. Like she's like, I'm not some amazing talent, and that other people can't do what I do. It's just that I'm
persistent.
persisted.
Yeah. And
Which
so,
I would maybe disagree with her.
no, I think she's fucking brilliant, but whatever.
Well, what did you read?
Okay, sorry, I got talking about Octavia Butler and I got distracted.
Well, let's talk about her some more.
Let's do. Because I read Survivor by Octavia Butler for this challenge. This book is kind of her disowned book. It was I think her least favorite of her works. So this novel is about these missionaries who basically colonize a planet and find themselves caught in between a tribal war among the indigenous species that live there. And I mean, this is probably, like, this is not my favorite Octavia Butler novel. It is kind of, on the face of it, it's kind of stereotypical sci-fi.
Which is why she
disowned it. But in true Octavia Butler fashion, I cannot talk right now. There are a lot of like social justice themes in this book, So, I mean, she still does what she does. I feel like she just doesn't necessarily do it as gracefully in this novel as she does in later novels. That being said, though, I still really loved it. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's still like very poignant about, like I said, you know, social issues. And there's alien, like furry blue alien sex in this.
When you say that, I just think of Earth Girls Are Easy.
Yeah.
Furry blue alien.
Furry blue alien,
Hot
Jeff Goldblum.
furry blue alien.
So yeah, it's, you know, it's an interesting novel, but yeah, I really enjoyed it.
All right, so the last challenge we're talking about is reading a book by an author you've never read before. So what did you read?
I read Severance by Ling Ma. I got this in a Book of the Month Club box, and I chose it because it is a post-apocalyptic novel. How can you go wrong?
Post-apocalyptic.
You had me a post-apocalyptic. So this is the story of a woman who is first-generation Chinese American, and there is this like catastrophic pandemic that hits and basically destroys the vast majority of humans on Earth. And so she is living in New York and working in New York, and it's about how she kind of just like goes about her daily grind until she literally has no other choice, and then leaves with this group of survivors. But I've talked about this book before, and I mentioned that it's kind of like coming of age, first generation immigrant story mixed with post-apocalyptic story. There's a lot going on, and I feel like Ling Ma does all of that very well. I don't feel like it felt disjointed. I don't feel like it was hard to follow or anything like that. Like, I feel like it actually made it more engaging, and it just made it more of a multifaceted story. But yeah, like I really liked this. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. Probably would be more like 4.5 stars because I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I think it worked well, and it was just a really good book. What did you read?
I read The Stain by Rikki Ducornet, and I bought this because I had unknowingly bought the 3rd book in this series at a used bookstore, although I do think it's the kind of series that you can read
out of order.
Yeah, on their own. So I don't know if I'll get the 2nd book or not because, spoiler alert, didn't love this book. It was okay.
Wah, wah.
But it's about a girl who is born with a birthmark in the shape of a hare, like a rabbit.
Okay, I was like...
on her face.
Okay.
And her mother dies during birth, and her dad's an alcoholic and just runs off. So she's being raised by her aunt, who's like a very... kind of fundamentalist Christian. And this is set, I was very like unclear on what year this was set for a while, because it seemed like the way they lived, it almost seemed like the 1800s, but then it talked about someone having a camera at one point. So I was like, when is this? And I still don't really remember. I think it's maybe the early 1900s.
Okay.
Or something. I'm not sure about that though. But so her aunt thinks that this birthmark is like the mark of Satan and that she's, you know, evil. And so she employs like the help of this exorcist and also like sends her to a Catholic school. And it's just like a crazy...
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's just like a bunch of weird shit happens basically. Like at one point this girl eats glass and her throat's all cut up and she can't speak. At one point there was a really funny scene where the aunt has the like head nun of this school over for dinner as well as the exorcist.
Oh yeah.
And they like get drunk and then are like playing footsie under the table with each other, and the exorcist ends up like getting under the table and just going to town.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's just like
he was exercising some orgasms out of that. I'm just saying.
It's just that was a really funny scene, but it's just like a bunch of weird messed up shit happens.
That
basically.
sounds pretty fucked up.
But it was, you know, this girl, Charlotte, she kind of comes into her own by the end and is like, fuck all you guys.
Fuck all y'all.
I'm out of here.
I love that.
So that was kind of nice, but overall I was just kind of like, what?
Fair.
So I
Sounds
gave
like a lot
it,
of
I think
weirdness.
I gave it 3 stars, but I don't know. I can't decide whether I want to try, because the third book I got is called The Fountains of Neptune, and it sounds really interesting. So
Is
I don't
it
know.
short?
Yeah, I mean, it's about the same size as this one.
Might as well. I mean, it wouldn't
Isn't
take
that
you
long.
theoretically.
But I'm like, should I get the second book and read them in order, or should I just read The Fountains of Neptune?
I'd say just read it.
Yeah, maybe I will.
Fuck it. I did want to kind of shout out, since we talked about Octavia Butler twice in this video, the podcast, Octavia's Parables, which is put on by Adrienne Mary Brown and Toshi Regan. And it's a really excellent podcast. They go through chapter by chapter of Parable of the Sowers first, I think, right? Sower than talents.
Yeah.
So they're doing Parable of the Sower now, and that's about, they do one episode per, my dog is whining, one episode per chapter.
Groaning at his food again.
He's being weird. But they do one episode per chapter. They're about an hour long. And they just discuss the chapter, and then at the end there are some very like real world application type questions about those chapters. And it's a really
I need to check that out. Yeah.
it's super cool. They're starting Parable of the Talents in February of 2021. So they're going to do both of them. But I'll probably go back and listen to them again. They come out every Monday, and so I listen to them Monday morning. But once they're all out, I think I want to just listen to them kind of in succession again. So, but yeah, it's a really great podcast. So if you dig podcasts like I do, then I would highly recommend that you check it out.
Yeah, so if you've finished these 3 challenges, let us know what you read, and if you've read any of the books that we read for the challenges.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah. And don't forget that we have a live show
Friday the 11th.
Yes.
At 7 p.m. we will have a live show.
Central Standard Time.
Yes.
Yeah,
So come and
we'll
join
be
us.
discussing the challenge and also discussing next year's challenge.
Yes. And so if you have any questions, comments, feedback for us, please come to the live show. I'm sure we'll be doing a little bit of just hanging out as well, because we always seem to do that.
Right.
So come hang out with us, bring your favorite beverage, alcoholic or non, and hang out with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope to see you then.
Yep. And
All
thanks
right.
for watching.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.